Have you ever wanted a new way to see the world? A way to understand the big shifts happening all around us, from politics to the economy? Well, today, we're going to hand you that exact tool. It's called demography. And believe me, it's the story of all of us.
I mean, that's a huge question, right? It feels almost impossible. But what if I told you there's a science that gets us surprisingly close to an answer? And it does it by studying the one thing that shapes everything else: people.
Okay, so let's get into it. That science is demography. And I want you to think of it like a really high-powered lens. By studying human populations, how many of us there are, where we live, and how all that is changing, we can start to see the faint outlines of the future taking shape. It's the very tool we need to answer that big question.
So, if we're going to use this demographic lens, we first need to get a handle on its basic settings. It's time to open up the population toolkit.
First up, the most basic piece of the puzzle: population size. I mean, how many people are we actually talking about? Is it the 1.4 billion people in a country like China, or the couple hundred in the tiny remote village? This one number is the bedrock. It sets the stage for every single story that follows.
But just having a raw number doesn't tell you the whole story. Not even close. Next, we have to look at distribution. Think about the difference between a place like Japan, where almost everyone is packed into these massive coastal cities, versus somewhere like Australia, with its huge, pretty much empty interior. Where people live tells us everything about economic hubs, resource strains, you name it. And that naturally brings us to density. How tightly packed are all these people? A city-state like Monaco is unbelievably dense, which creates all sorts of unique challenges for things like housing and transportation. Meanwhile, Canada, a major country, has an incredibly low density. This is really where the rubber meets the road in understanding the real-world pressure on land, on water, on infrastructure.
Now, this is where things get really, really interesting. Population structure. It isn't just about the total number of people, it's about their age. So a country with a young structure, like you see on the left, is just brimming with potential for growth. But it also means you got to build schools and create millions of jobs. On the other hand, a country with an aging structure on the right needs to be thinking hard about healthcare and pensions. The big takeaway here is that the shape of a population today is literally a roadmap of its biggest challenges for tomorrow.
Okay, so we've seen what a population looks like as a snapshot in time. But what actually makes it move? What makes it change? Well, it turns out there are three fundamental forces. This is the very engine that drives it all. And to make this super simple, let's just think of it like a bathtub. Yeah, a bathtub. The water level, that's your population size, is constantly changing. And it all just depends on how much water is flowing in through the faucet and how much is draining out.
And here's that bathtub broken down for us. First, you've got fertility, the birth rate. That's the faucet pouring new people in. Then you have mortality, the death rate. That's the drain. And finally, there's migration, which is interesting because it can act as another tap pouring in or another drain pulling out. These three forces are in this constant dynamic dance that shapes our entire world.
And demographers track these forces with some amazing precision. I mean, look at these indicators. The total fertility rate, it doesn't just count babies born today. It helps us predict growth for decades into the future. And life expectancy, that's not just a number. It's a powerful summary of a whole nation's healthcare, its nutrition, its public safety. These are basically the vital signs of a society.
So if those are the mechanics, what's the story they tell? Well, this is the cool part. Demographers have found that as societies develop, they tend to follow a remarkably similar path. It's a story that we can see playing out over and over again all throughout history.
This is what's known as the demographic transition theory. So, in stage 1, for most of human history, life was tough. Birth and death rates were both really high, so the population stayed pretty stable. But then, in stage 2, things get better. We're talking sanitation, medicine, and death rates just plummet. But birth rates stay high for a while, and boom, you get a population explosion. Then, in stage 3, as societies get more modern and wealthy, birth rates start to fall too, and that growth slows way down. And finally, you get to stage 4, where you have low birth and low death rates, leading to a stable or sometimes even a shrinking population.
But you know what? The story doesn't actually end there. We're now seeing a totally new chapter unfold for many developed countries. You could call it a post-transition stage. This is where fertility rates fall so low that populations actually start to shrink and age really, really fast,
which presents a whole new set of challenges for the 21st century.
Okay, so this is so much more than just some academic theory. This demographic lens is absolutely essential for understanding and tackling the biggest challenges we are facing right now. So let's focus it on the here and now.
Just think about today's biggest headlines. How can we possibly plan for the megacities of the future without understanding urbanization? How can we build sustainable healthcare systems if we can't forecast the needs of an aging population? And how on earth do we manage our planet's resources if we don't know how many people are going to need them? See, demography isn't just for textbooks. It is the practical blueprint for solving these massive issues.
And that, right there, is the ultimate goal. The whole point of all this is to use this knowledge to actually build a better future. It's about analyzing these trends so we can create policies that lead to an improved quality of life. And not just for us, right now, but for all the generations that are going to come after us.
So, we've given you the toolkit. We've walked you through the basic settings on this incredibly powerful lens. The next time you see a headline about the economy or the environment or some big political debate, try looking at it through the lens of demography. The real question is, now that you have it, what do you see?